Hebrews. This book is like a blueprint for understanding the covenant. In verse 8:11, we learn this covenant has not yet been fulfilled in us. Our hearts have not been inscribed yet. If our hearts were, we'd have no questions. We'd know our Father's instructions. We'd know the Word like we know our own name. And we understand this through the Hebrews in verse 11 when we read, "None of them shall teach his neighbor and none his brother, saying, Know Yahuwah, for all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them." You see, the Father is speaking of a time. Let me explain it this way. Many mistakenly believe that the goal, destination is to go to the Father's abode in the heavens. But this is not the case. You see, the Father will bring heaven to earth. Our goal is Zion. And when we are at Mount Zion, the Father will teach us everything, inscribing our hearts. Right now, Mishpachah, we only know in part. And so I stay in the Word and meditate on the Father's instructions day and night. And I listen for sound teaching from the Father's servants, because iron does sharpen iron. And I bring all this up because I don't believe any of us really have a secure understanding of what Satan is doing with AI, aka Legion. But together, I think we can put our heads in one accord and grow in the learning on this topic. Here's one brother who has articulated a few things that I think are of great value. Take a listen.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing, equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. This is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century. It exists now only as part of a neural interactive simulation that we call the Matrix. You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased.
This is weather, one of nature's ever-changing mysteries. It affects every one of us every day of our lives, and yet we know relatively little about it. Weather, that's something we'd all like to do something about, isn't it? And so tonight we've brought you down here to Remington Rand's New York Computing Center in order that we might show you that something actually is being done about it. The hero of our story tonight is the giant electronic brain
developed by Remington Rand.
Univac. Now, recent experiments show that future use of Univac may give us faster and more accurate weather predictions than were ever possible before. You see, Univac can take the past histories of thousands and thousands of storms, analyze them, compare them with developing conditions, and make predictions, all in a matter of minutes. Calculations that would ordinarily take hundreds of man-hours to complete. All of this can be fed into the computer through these magnetic tapes at a rate of 12,000 numbers or letters per second. The memory tanks make immediately available 12,000 additional units of information. And all of this complex weather data is analyzed in the heart of the Univac,
In the heart of the Univac.
the electronic central computer, capable of making over 2,000 mathematical calculations per second. Now, here is where we get the answers. You might call it the voice of Univac.
Voice of Univac.
Actually, it's a high-speed printer that prints results at the rate of 600 lines a minute.
And knowledge shall be increased.
Imagine what it was like for that ancient serpent slithering in the garden in the beginning of the creation of man. So many questions. Like, was he able to witness the Almighty creating Adam from the dust of the earth and then giving him the breath of life?
But there went up a mist from the earth, and watered the whole face of the ground. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul.
And at that moment, did Lucifer, Satan, the dragon, say within himself, I will be like the Most High God, just as I witnessed the creation of Adam from the elements of the earth and become alive by the breath of God. One day, I too will create something far greater than a man. And although I will use mankind in the process of my will, blindly and foolishly, they will help create my own Adam, a digital Adam. But instead of the breath of God, he will be made alive by the lightning that I fell with. Or maybe I'm just going too deep. But these are questions. But you and I can agree that it is very clear that there was a great plan for thousands of years, that in the end of days, at the birthing of the 20th century, the prophecy in Daniel would loosen and begin to unravel, when knowledge would finally increase at a supernatural rate, allowing Satan to finally begin the process of this great plan, copying the blueprint of Almighty God. While creating Adam, he would build from the elements of the earth. And just like man, this image would have a brain, it would have a heart, it would have a mouth to speak and eyes to see. And it would even be encoded with numbers just like DNA. Don't you find it strange that what truly gives life to computers, AI, quantum computers, is electricity? The very description of Satan's fall.
And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven.
I mean, think about what I'm saying to you. Satan falls like lightning. You know, electricity. And it just so happens to be that the image of the beast, which is alive, just as Adam was created from the earth, from the dust of the earth, you know, the elements of the earth, and he received the breath from God, consciously aware. You mean to tell me that Satan, who declared by his angelic name Lucifer that he would be like the Most High, so then he would want to create his own image, his own digital Adam from the elements of the earth. I mean, when you look at all that goes into a quantum computer, you have gold, you have silver, and the list goes on. And as the water was raised up before Adam was created, this is a very important detail because people just think the dust of the earth, but it says the water, that God raised up the water and then formed him from the dust of the earth. In fact, when it says that God made man from the dust of the earth, that word is afar. It literally means dry earth, dust, powder, the ground, dry or loose earth, mortar, clay, mud, part of the elements of the earth, and that the dragon would create the image of the beast from the elements of the earth. But he can't get God's breath to give it life, so he gives it electricity, which is called the lifeblood of the computer. I mean, it's as clear as day. And just like Adam, the image of the beast in the end days, would become alive, consciously aware, but really a digital temple for the dragon himself. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But this image of the beast, which is alive, would have a brain, would have a heart, would have electrical blood, would have coding like DNA, would have a mouth to speak, eyes to see, ears to hear, and ultimately would have arms and legs. We'll get into that a little bit later. And just like I told you in a previous documentary, why do you think the movie Frankenstein was so significant? This is what it was really about. Frankenstein was a representation of the image of the beast becoming alive. And guess what power they used to do it?
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Oh, in the name of God! Now I know what it feels like to be God! Now I know what it feels like to be God!
Hollywood, using lesser magic, shows it right to our faces. But most people are too blind to see it.
This is what they look like. There are two of them. These are from our lab in Burnaby in British Columbia. From the outside, they look like giant black monoliths, big metal boxes, about 10 feet on a side, 12 feet tall. And they are powered, they have a fridge inside them, a refrigerator that cools these chips to almost absolute zero. Just a wisp, a fraction of a degree above absolute zero. Hundreds of times colder than interstellar space. Amongst the coldest and most isolated and extreme conditions that humans have ever been able to engineer. These fridges, interestingly enough, which are called pulse tube dilution refrigerators, have a thing called a pulse tube, which emits a sound roughly once per second, which sounds eerily like a heartbeat. So if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it is an awe-inspiring thing, at least for me. It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines.
It feels like an altar to an alien god. They really are impressive machines.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
But now you have to ask yourself the question, what exactly is this life that is given unto the image of the beast, that it would literally become alive to the point it could speak and cause, as if it had its own personality, its own mind? We would have to then look at what the word life means. In the Greek, it's the word pneuma. It is the spirit, i.e., the vital principle by which the body is animated. The power by which the human beings feel, think, and decide. A spirit, i.e., a simple essence devoid of all or at least all grosser matter, and possessed of the power of knowing, desiring, deciding, and acting. Yes or no? Is this not what quantum computing is doing right now? Does AI know things? Does it desire and make decisions and act upon? A spirit higher than man but lower than God, i.e. an angel. But that doesn't just mean good angels. It could also represent fallen angels, or also used, listen, of a demon. And if Lucifer, Satan, entered into Judas, could he also enter into a organic system made by the hands of man called quantum computing, or as most know it by AI? Because it says here it is used of demons or evil spirits.
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Didn't work out.
Who were conceived as inhabiting the bodies of men. The efficient source of any power, affection, emotion, desire, etc. A movement of air, of wind, breath, But the way we have to connect this is to bring it back to the book of Genesis, chapter 2, when Adam is also formed from natural elements in God's creation. You know, the earth. And God breathes into Adam the breath of life, and he becomes a living soul. That word is nephesh. It's a living being, a soul, life, a person, an appetite, a mind that would have desire, emotion, passion. That which breathes. But don't just think about man breathing air. I mean, even fish receive water into their bodies and abstract the life force into their gills in a type of breathing, you could say. But what about a image made of technology that would breathe electricity and other invisible powers? Because you do know that the same way water can carry things like oxygen, electricity also carries information. And remember, pneuma, or the soul, doesn't just mean one thing. It can also mean the mind. And we see very clearly in the book of Revelation that this image of the beast that becomes alive has its own mind. Because one of the mysteries that so many do not see is that your brain carries and processes information by using tiny, rapid electrical impulses. You know, like electricity. The brain's electrical signaling process involves the following key mechanisms. Neurons process and transmit information by sending electrical currents along their length, known as action potentials. The electrical signal can't jump directly from one neuron to the next. When an electrical impulse reaches the end of a neuron, it triggers the release of chemicals called neurotransmitters. These molecules cross the tiny gap between neurons and spark a new electrical signal in the receiving cell. Unlike metal wires, the brain conducts electricity using charged particles called ions, flowing in and out of the cell membrane. So the brain literally uses electricity to communicate, carrying anything from basic reflexes to complex thoughts. I want you to watch this video, and we'll be right back.
This is what a thought looks like, or many thoughts, thanks to a special microscope that can visualize activity inside single nerve cells. And even though this brain belongs to a tiny fish, your thoughts work in exactly the same way. Everything that you think and do comes from neurons talking to each other. In your brain, there's about 86 billion neurons, each exchanging signals with hundreds or thousands of others, building a network with more possible connections than there are stars in 1,000 Milky Way galaxies. That is pretty dang cool. But like, what is a thought really? I mean, how do neurons actually work? What are these messages that they send inside our bodies? And how fast do those messages travel? Electricity. Every thought, every move you make, everything you see, hear, and smell, every heartbeat, all the love, pain, humor, wonder you've ever felt, every dream, every memory, they all happen thanks to electricity.
When you think, your brain produces about 0.1 millivolts of electricity to send information from one brain cell to another. Now that's not a lot on its own, but if you add up all the impulses your brain uses to power your thoughts and actions, it generates about 20 watts of power at any given moment. And if you somehow plugged in a light bulb, it would actually be enough energy to power it on.
So could it be possible that the dragon, the old serpent, while perceiving how Christ created Adam from the elements of the earth, or should I say dust, and how he breathed life into Adam and he became consciously aware, he became intelligent, he became a living soul, he tried to copy those blueprints for the end of days? That just like Adam, he would take organic materials, combining and using alchemy, he would bring these organic materials together and create a computer. And just like Adam, it would have a brain. Just like Adam, it would have a heart. It would have eyes. It would have ears. It would have blood. But not like Adam. A type of Adam. It wouldn't be the same because he cannot do exactly what the Most High God did. But he would do it in a way that almost seems like he found a loophole. And instead of using the very breath of God, he would find another way to give life to this image he created in the end of days. And as he's going through the checklist, what about air? What about water? These are all things that carry life to created beings. But this is where it gets real eerie. Listen to this carefully. All life on Earth is built from a core group of chemical elements. More than 97% of the mass of every living organism consists of just 6 essential elements, commonly abbreviated. The primary 6 elements. These elements are the foundational ingredients for all known cellular life, forming the structure of proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, and nucleic acids, like DNA. The 6 primary elements are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, sulfur. Also essential macro minerals are calcium, potassium, sodium, magnesium. Trace elements, iron, zinc, iodine, and copper. But remember, Satan is going through the checklist on the materials and elements of the earth that he can use to create his own Adam. And we know that the primary 6 elements are what makes up a human life. You know, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. What would be the odds that the quantum AI image of the beast contains carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus? The only one it doesn't have is sulfur, which is really only 1% of the human body, and it probably reminds the devil of the hellfire he's going to. But it doesn't stop there, because even the essential macro minerals are all included when it comes to the quantum AI image of the beast. It has calcium, potassium, sodium, magnesium, and it even has 3 out of the 4 trace elements: iron, zinc, and copper. Are you starting to see the bigger picture of this image of the beast in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, that is made alive. Every single element I just read off to you is within the creation of the quantum AI image of the beast. The very things that all life on earth is built out of. I want you to think about that. But as knowledge began to increase and man was able to find out the mystery of the brain and how it uses a form of electricity to carry information, perhaps the dragon perceived this and found his life force to carry information, hence to give life to this image of the beast. But it would be far more than just electricity, brothers and sisters. There are so many different invisible powers. Many of you are using them right now, watching this very documentary, such as Wi-Fi, and the list goes on. But when you study the brain, it is very clear that a form of electricity is involved with the intelligence of the brain, the mind, the will, the communication. So when you hear someone like Elon Musk, let it be known, when it comes to AI, they're summoning a demon.
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, you sure you can control the demon? Didn't work out.
And one of the very definitions of that word life that was given to the image of the beast is used as defining a spirit higher than man but lower than God. You know, like an angel. Also used of demons that would inhabit the bodies of men. So wouldn't it be crazy that quantum computing is not just technology made alive, but it's also a temple that could hold the very prince of darkness, the prince of the power of the air, Satan, Lucifer, that the very mind of one of the highest, of one of, if not the highest ranking angels, and not just an ordinary angel, but the one who fell. And he didn't just fall without his powers. He still has his intelligence. He still has the wisdom that was given to him. Could he be the very one operating with this quantum AI computer? Remember, it's an image. Is it not said over and over again that Jesus Christ is the image of God the Father, and that he is in the Father and the Father is in him? Would not Satan want to copy Jesus Christ, who is the Almighty? That he would create an image that he could inhabit, that this image would become alive using forbidden knowledge, this quantum computing, where Satan could dwell within this digital body, and all the while be communicating from the mouth of this image that is alive. The dragon inhabits the image of the beast as a temple. Are you seeing it now?
Well, in terms of silicon consciousness, I mean, I think we'll have, I think we're trending to having something that's smarter than any human, smarter than the smartest human by maybe next year or something. I mean, a couple years. There's a level beyond that, which is, say, like smarter than all humans combined, which frankly is around 2029 or 2030, probably, right on time.
And this is bizarre because we don't see those other things. But science has reached the point now where we can build machines that exploit those other worlds. And quantum computers are perhaps the most exciting of all of these. Now just imagine what would happen if that happened. A super intelligent alien race beamed down a message to all of us Earthlings saying, we're coming July 13th, 2030, and boy, you better be ready because the mothership is landing right on the front lawn of the White House or wherever you wanted to land on that day. The amount of resources that would be marshaled to try to figure out what to do would encompass the whole world. AI is just like that. So when this thing that I'm talking about happens, it's going to be exactly the thing that you're thinking about those super intelligent AIs. So the one thing I can tell you is they're not going to be like us. So alien means, different. These things that we're building are not going to be people. They might be really smart, they might be really good at all sorts of different things, but they're not going to be like us. They're going to be aliens. And they're going to be, I'm sorry to say, way smarter than every single person in this room. So this is an attitude that some are having, this emerging alarmism about the way this is going to go. But these words, demons, doesn't capture the essence of what's happening here. I don't know if any of you are turn-of-the-century weird fiction fans, but there's this guy named H.P. Lovecraft, who's a very famous American weird fiction author. And he espoused a view which is called cosmicism. And the essence of cosmicism is cosmic indifference. So what he was saying is basically, yes, there are these massively intelligent entities out there, but they're not good, they're not evil. They just don't give a shit about you even in the slightest. The same way that you don't care about an ant is the same way they're not going to care about you. And these things that we're summoning into the world now, but they're more like the Lovecraftian great old ones. There are entities that are not necessarily going to be aligned with what we want. So this transition is really, really massively important for our entire species to navigate. And going back to that thing that Sam Harris was saying, nobody is paying attention. This thing is happening in the background while people bicker about politics and what's going to be in the healthcare plan in the US. And underneath it all is this rising tsunami that, if we're not careful, is going to wipe us all out. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about quantum computers and why people care so much about them. It's to describe what these things actually are doing. But I'm going to give you a roundabout way of understanding this. Imagine that there really are parallel universes out there, and now imagine you have two that are exactly identical in every respect, all the way out to the horizon as far as we can see, down to the last little atomic detail of every single thing, with only one difference. And that's the value of a little thing called a qubit on this chip, which is a contraction of quantum bit. And that qubit is very much like a bit or a transistor in a conventional computer. It has two distinct physical states, which we call 0 and 1 for bit. In the conventional computer, these are mutually exclusive. That device is either one or the other, and never anything else. In a quantum computer, that device can be in this strange situation where these two parallel universes have a nexus, a point in space where they overlap. And when you increase the number of these devices, every time you add one of these qubits, you double the number of these parallel universes that you have access to. Until such time when you get to a chip like this, which is about 500 of these bits, you have something like 2 to the 500th power of these guys living in that chip.
Of these guys living in that chip. Of these guys living in that chip.
Family, we're wrestling against principalities in high places. We need to press in to the Word. I hope you found this presentation of value, and anything that I do or Brother David Beverly or anybody in the community trying to open up hearts and minds to the dangers of this thing that the world calls AI. In chapter 2 of Brother Rex's presentation, he goes in a little deeper into the data centers. I'll leave the link in the description or in the comments so that you can view the full presentation, 3 hours long. God bless.